The Igbo people of Nigeria, Republican, itinerant, and highly entrepreneurial. And recently, Ndị Igbo have come under political, economic, and social attacks within and outside Nigeria. But is it all the fault of others that Ndị Igbo are facing these challenges? Are they partly to blame for their troubles? Ihe na-eme Ndị Igbo o si ha n'aka? Can Ndị Igbo do better and indeed do better for their own sakes? This is the Eastern Eye. I am Alex Obodo. A program that X-rays the political, social, and economic developments around us. Tonight, I'm joined by James Ngwu Eze. He's a journalist, poet, and critic. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on the Eastern Eye.
Thank you, Alex.
So I think a lot of issues have come to the front burner regarding Ndị Igbo. And sometimes you read through social media and people are always saying they did this to Ndị Igbo, they did that to Ndị Igbo. But the question would be, all the tension created around what Ndị Igbo should get and what they are not getting, is it all the fault of other people?
Thank you very much. Your question is what Ndị Igbo should get and what they should not get. And
typically what I'm saying is that there's a lot of complaint from the Southeast regarding what others are doing to Ndị Igbo.
Yeah.
What about what Ndị Igbo are doing to themselves that are creating some of those problems?
Yeah, you see, there is a history to the Igbo plight in Nigeria that dates back to almost the pre-independent era. So it's the Igbo question in Nigeria is not a contemporary question, so to speak. It's always been there. And I think it has been identified as a part of what marks us out as a people that, according to Chinua Achebe in There Was a Country, there is a tendency amongst the Ndị Igbo, to be very haughty and proud and not, paying attention to humility when it matters most. And, this attracts envy. If you are very assertive, because if you look at the multiple Nigerian cultures and what the restrictions those cultures place on individuals from those societies, we don't have such encumbrances. The Igbo man is free, is accountable only to God, his creator. You understand? This is as against other rival cultures in Nigeria where they are accountable to one monarchy or the other, one extreme social structure that even limits the rates to which they can aspire for greatness. We don't have such encumbrances. We are a highly competitive society, and if there is anything we lionize, it is individual accomplishment. This has been always a point of conflict between us and our siblings, our neighbors, who do not have such restrictions. Some cultures, a child wakes up in the morning and he has to bow down to his parents, in respect to his parents. We don't have such, cultural prescriptions in Igbo society. But we have our own approach to issue. The Igbo, outlook, or rather the Igbo worldview or outlook on life has always been antithetical to our advancement in a cultural milieu as complex and as nuanced as Nigeria, because some of the attitudes that we exhibit when we encounter people from different cultural backgrounds might, but they are often seen as strange. You understand? Meanwhile, within our cultural setting, those attributes are acceptable. So in order to answer your question directly, I think that it is about time that Ndị Igbo began to take responsibility for the way that they are seen by their Nigerian brothers and even by other Africans, because we must admit that this perception of Ndị Igbo is no more a national question, but an international one. I have watched video clips from Kenya. Lately, we have a blow-up in Ghana, and we know about South Africa, and I've also heard that we have the same resentment in Malaysia and India. So, for a people who has been consistently profiled in a certain way, is it not time we looked inwards and began to adjust to fit into the fast globalizing world? I know that our exhibitionism, which Achebe pointed at very seriously in There Was a Country, it has lately become, a marker of our cultural identity in Nigeria. When a single Igbo man, to mark his 50 years on earth, declares 50 at 50 and shuts Abuja down in a very loud and vulgar celebration, what do you think it will attract? And when some of our new cultural ambassadors, because whether some of us who are a little reserved like it or not, these people have appropriated the cultural space. And you have someone from Igbo land, sloganeering money na water all over Nigeria. Does that not offend people's sensibilities? Why are we not capable of deep introspection like our forebears were? Before I came here, I was listening to Zeke's, inaugural address, at the dawn of independence. And that speech is full of wisdom and insight and whatever, brilliance, serious reflection. We don't see that amongst our people anymore. Tragically, we don't. I don't know where the rain began to beat us and when it will stop or when we will be able to dry our bodies. But the current situation demands a very serious introspection amongst us. I think I should stop here because subsequently I will talk about what is really going on, because there doesn't seem to be any counter narrative from any Igbo leader of note.
Yeah, I mean, it's disturbing, isn't it, that things are happening concerning Igbo in different parts of the world, because now it's no longer in Nigeria.
It's not.
This is not about not allowing you to run for president. That's not the problem now.
It's no more
the problem is that there is a risk that Ndị Igbo might not be allowed to also live their lives in the places they've chosen to live in different parts of the world because of the way they have either positioned themselves or the attitudes they've displayed, or just like we've talked about, the exhibitionism that have come with them trying to show off that they have arrived. There are different ways they explain these things.
Yeah.
Is this hurting the opportunities for the younger generation? Because there is now some kind of stigma that comes with being an Igbo man. When you are in a foreign land, they expect that there will always be something that you would do that will just tick that box they're looking at, that you must tick, that you must show off, that you haven't showed off your wealth. That maybe you are just not an Igbo man.
Well, you see, Alex, we must look into, once again, the context of our culture. I know that there is a saying amongst some parts of Igbo land, na ane mo galanye me.
That's right. Nada abu ya abu.
You understand what I'm saying? That underscores the exhibitionist culture. That, the tragedy of the Igbo situation is that ofumpulaka lutamano ozulora. It may have been a culture that is synonymous with an Igbo subculture, but it has now become the defining motif of the Igbo man wherever you find him. And it is terrible. We have come to a point where we really need to start asking ourselves hard-headed questions. Must we show off? How many Igbo men are on the Forbes list of the richest Nigerians or even the richest Africans? Do we have anybody there? Why are we the noisiest? Any young Igbo entrepreneur who makes a little money wants to show the world that he has arrived, as you rightly pointed out. And the question, again, that we should be asking ourselves is, who are these exhibitionist billionaires? What is their track record? What is their career trajectory? I recall that the other day, Odelo Wabas, spoke at the Things Fall Apart festival closing ceremony. She warned about Ndị Igbo celebrating success stories, success stories whose stories we cannot, actually vouch for. People who are successful, but whose stories, whose background remain, enshrouded in mystery. Sometimes, things that we cannot proudly identify with and say, yeah, this man has made good, and this is the source of his wealth. So who are these exhibitionist Igbo people, wherever they are? Look at what is going on in Ghana. Before the Ghanaian debacle, what did we know about Ihetu? That's his name. I think that's his surname. I've forgotten his first name. Chukwudi Ihetu, the acclaimed Ezigbo Ghana. So you understand what I'm saying? Are these people properly, prepared for leadership? Because, I have studied leadership for a while, and I think that what most leaders do, in fact, what leaders do, leaders talk. And their speeches become actions. So a leader who is not gifted with wisdom will bring ruination and grief on his people by mere utterance. And that's what is going on in Ghana at the moment. What did Ezigbo Ghana do? He didn't do anything, but his words carry no wisdom, no sparks of serious reflection. He had no time to consider the consequences of his, posturing and his words in Ghana, both on the Ghanaian sensibilities and on the larger Igbo image, and especially Igbo people who are doing legitimate businesses in Ghana.
Well, unfortunately, it looks like, just like you've pointed out, they are paying attention to how to attract adulation instead of actually going out there to be good ambassadors of their home country. Or if you are an Igbo man, for instance, you understand that you're coming from somewhere. And whatever you do will rub off on the larger ethnic group. So this seems to be missing with all the decisions people are taking outside of the Southeast, and people are tagging them in different ways. How do you think that we can have a rethink of this? So is there a way to maybe help whoever is thinking about towing this line to change course? Because it looks like now the consequences might be much more than we envisaged.
Yes, the consequences are not just much more than we envisaged, but the consequences we put us to grief, sincerely. And it is already happening. I don't see how any conscious Igbo man or woman would look at what is going on across the world every day. People are talking about us and still be happy about it. And they are talking about us for the wrong reasons and for things that should be avoided, that can be easily avoided. Why are we always inserting ourselves in positions that make life difficult for the rest of us? So the question is, what structures do we have within the Igbo society in Nigeria that can, rein in some of these reflexes amongst our people? People who want to play outside, outside the realm of reason and logic, Well, how do we put such reflexes in check? You know, and that is also, that has reminded me, you know, that so far, I am not aware of any serious reaction, you know, to what is going on, especially in Ghana, you know, from Ohaneze or any of the Igbo leadership structures.
Yeah, I think there was a reaction. I think it was from the Southeast Traditional Rulers Council.
That's the Traditional Rulers Council.
Yeah,
It's different from Ohaneze.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at it critically, the Southeast Traditional Rulers Council also have a voice here because it rests directly on their table. Your Ohaneze is fine, more global, but traditionally speaking, it's the traditional rulers that are the first port of call of this. There are people, if you are the Southeast and you want to get a title, they are the ones that will confer the title on you. And they are saying it that nobody should bear that title of Ndị Igbo outside of Igbo land. There is nothing like that. You can be PG, you can be President General, you can be whatever, but not Ndị Igbo or Igwe Igbo, whatever it is.
Yes.
So do you think that one thing is to say what people shouldn't do, another thing is for them to listen? Are they listening?
No, they are not. But I also want to observe that outlawing the Ndị Igbo title is one thing. Directly addressing a festering sore is another. I read the statement from the Council of Traditional Rulers, but I'm not aware that it specifically addressed the Ghanaian situation. And
No, I mean, they don't, because there are other issues from other places.
Yes, but
so that was an opportunity to address them.
Yes, but this one is the open sore of the continent. It is what hits every African on the face right now. So, and I don't think that one statement from the Traditional Council of Traditional Rulers is enough under the circumstances. If we know the gravity of what is going on and this implication, you know, for all of us, I think that more groups, more leadership organizations or structures, you know, or arrangements in Igbo land should speak to the Ghanaian situation. Every day it actually brings, you know, agony to us, you know, and the man, in spite of what has been going on, doesn't seem to even pay attention to what is going on. He doesn't seem to care, you know, and which also reminds me that I'm not aware, maybe you should advise me, or, you know, whether there has been a formal response from the federal government to what is going on in Ghana. Does it mean that the Nigerian mission in Ghana cannot call Mr. Ihetu to order? Well, why have they left it? Do they want to wait until there is real violence?
I watched a video.
And death.
I watched a video where the referenced individual was talking about how he's married to a Ghanaian. He's married to a Ghanaian woman. He has children. According to him, that those children are also Ghanaian children, and that, you know, I guess he was basically trying to justify why people should not really sweep him away from his place in Ghana. But at the end of the day, there are things that you do, being ultimately a visitor, that you insult the sensibilities of your hosts. It has happened in Lagos, and there's been a lot of talk about how Igbo business interests may have been treated in Lagos. But you also think, James, I'm sure you've been in Lagos yourself, has Ndị Igbo actually conducted themselves in a way that should attract applause? If you are successful in your business, do you have to rub it on the face or the faces of your hosts?
Yes, Alex, we need to take responsibility. Our people have not always conducted themselves well. And if we must also admit it, much of that tragedy comes from the informal sector, where you have a lot of traders who do not care for education or even any other training that, you know, would come with, you know, a better understanding of, coexistence in a complex society. It leads to such problems. We know how our people behave. sometimes they don't even wait to, go to other cultures to show such, infuriating attitude towards the host cities. If we must admit it, it even happens in Igbo land, where people from outside Abakaliki would go to Abakaliki and talk down on Ndi Abakaliki. Go to Nsukka and say, you are one Nsukka, you are a fool, you don't have sense. Our own Igbo brothers. And they carry the same attitude. They go to River State and dress down the Ikwere man. And the fellow begins to feel, look, if you see me this way, then we are not the same. Is it because we don't want to address some of these things? If we look within us, we know where that strain of, arrogance and superiority complex usually comes from. And we need to address that because it is now hurting all of us. Because it has not been addressed, squarely, you see that spilling over, our people now imbibing this culture of looking down on the host community. You probably go to Ghana and tell Ghanaians that you are lazy. Look at me, I am successful. You are not. How do you think such attitudes would present you? Will it endear you to your host community, or will it make them bitter and rise against you? So the thing is, that's why I keep harping on the importance of the institutions that we have. Whether it's the traditional institution, whether it's the church, we need to start speaking to our people. You see, I have also been profiled. I have been a victim of narrow profiling by my own Igbo brothers. Maybe it hasn't happened to you because you are from Nkano, but I know how the Nsukka man is perceived by our other Igbo brothers. You know how I speak, Alex, that I shoot from the hips, so that we tell ourselves the truth. It is this same attitude that people carry over, go to Kenya, and you tell Kenyans that you guys are lazy. You project yourself as, a very superior human being who came to civilize them. Who are you? This thing has to be tackled at the leadership level, the grassroots level. And probably we need to organize, something like seminars in markets and business districts where our people are in the larger majority. This is what I think, because some of these impulse actually come from those places. You and I cannot go out there and you meet someone from a different culture that you should be looking to discovering things about them, exciting things about them. You begin to profile them and look there and knock them down. This is the issue. This is the problem. And unfortunately, when people with this primitive mindset, when they come into money, they finally want to show you that
no
Butagike, and that you are useless.
We'll take a break,
Yes.
Mr. James
Yeah.
Ngwu Eze. When we come back, we'll also talk about what needs to be done and how fast we need to do it.
Yeah.
Join us after the break here on the Eastern Eye.
Yeah.
Back to the Eastern Eye here on AFIA TV, a program that x-rays the political, social, and economic developments around us. I still have in the studio James Ngwu Eze. Is a poet, journalist, and critic, and the CEO Udala Tree Concept. I forgot to add that in the beginning. And how do you think Ndị Igbo will solve this puzzle? There's a saying here that Nana Mama, we don't know where banana. So you have to start doing good from home before you go out there.
Yeah.
So the problem will need to be solved from home first, because all the issues we have referenced on this program so far also take place here within the Southeast.
Yes.
So how do you think this can be dealt with?
Well, we already started, addressing it, because even within the Southeast, like you rightly pointed out, we have these discrepancies, this I am superior to you mentality amongst us. That's why Odelowa delivered the lecture that we, by the way, she did on the 5th of this month, and addressed Igbo bụ Igbo. Igbo niile bụ ofu. So this idea that because I am from this part of Igbo land, you know, my own Igbo is higher than yours. I want to be Igbo. Unwa bu Ike Igbo. You know, and I was impressed when I watched a lawyer from Asaba, Chike Ogea, address Ruben Abati the other day. And he told Ruben there is nothing like mainstream Igbo. Igbo ni Igbo. So we need to do some, paraphrasing Odelowa's lecture again, she said something about house cleaning. Ndị Igbo need to clean, we need to clean our house before a season uno. Because what we have here, we don't even have the unity that would help us look inwards together and say, look, can we head in this direction? Do we still have, what do they call it now? That annual Bishops' Conference, the Synod? If we still have synods and such structures, religious structures, the Traditional Rulers' Council is another. You know, I'm talking about places where these complexities can be addressed because we are a religious people. If the members of the clergy, you know, are able to address some of these issues in their sermons, in their, what do they call it, orderlies, right? Did I get it? Yeah. Homilies. In their homilies on Sundays, and use different fora to address some of these issues, because silence will not help us. It has come to a stage where we must address these issues frontally, or we bear the consequences collectively. So if we can have that structure, and the Southeast governors, I can't remember the last time I heard that they had a meeting. So you can also see that.
Do you think they will meet this year?
So how can a people facing almost global persecution, how can our political leaders not see the need to close ranks and come up with ideas about how to prepare our people, you know, to decelerate this rising temperature, so that we will be able to, our people will be able to, you know, we also need, the leaders need to speak out, counsel their people, speak to them, speak to different, speak the language of leadership, not the language of a leader who goes to a foreign country and begins to demarcate his own people. Every human society has its own problems. But you don't take your own particular anxieties and make it, you know, the defining image of dysfunction. Because I looked at, the other day I came across videos floating around referencing the commentary of a certain leader and telling Ghanaians, can you see? Ghanaians, see where your problem is coming from. It is Igbo. I saw one lady saying, look, I am a Nigerian. Ghanaians, if you don't want to regret your situation, watch this video. And what was it? The video of one of our political leaders speaking about the situation at home. So that is not the kind of language that we expect our leaders to speak at this moment in time. Because every society has its own ailments. You don't make your own the defining headline of a dysfunctional society as Nigeria. We have to be very, very wise in our approach to resolving this issue. The political leaders should talk to themselves. The Southeast Caucus of the National Assembly should talk to themselves. This is the time that we need leadership to assert itself and manage this situation. You know, almost all through yesterday, there was this raging debate over, you know, attempts at erasure in Lagos. You know, erasing Igbo memories in Lagos should worry all of us.
By the way, I had Charlie Boy on the show yesterday. He was talking about those things not being the real problems Nigeria has. But that he didn't put the name there.
No, but Charlie Boy was just being comical. He missed the memo. Because the Lagos situation is not about Charlie Boy. It's far deeper than Charlie Boy. It's just, we are talking about Charlie Boy because we cannot relate with Charlie Boy. But before the Charlie Boy bus stop was renamed, there were several streets in Lagos bearing Igbo names that were also whimsically changed. Unfortunately, we have some Yoruba names on streets in Lagos, in Enugu, and some hostels in the University of Nigeria. We have Marere, we have Awo, we have Akintola, I think, right, in the University of Nigeria. And these are things, these cultural memories are part of our heritage, our collective heritage as a nation. It helps us to, it gives a certain kind of joy that you travel from here to Maiduguri and you see a street named after an Igbo political leader or someone from Igbo land who had distinguished himself nationally. That's what makes a nation. It's not when you obliterate images, and memories of people who belong to the same commonwealth with you. So what statements are you really making? It's very dangerous. I think even the people who are, embarking on such erasure in Lagos they might just think that, oh, we are trying to checkmate the excesses of these people. But it might not end there because it will deepen the fissure, between us. The mutual suspicion will widen. And what do you think it will lead to? Are you working to unify this country or to split it and force people to go their separate ways? That is the reason that I think that the political leaders should speak out at this moment. Those little things, the cultural symbols, collective memories, and all those things, those artifacts, those memorabilia, those things that matter to us, we should let them be. No matter how poisonous the politics gets, there are certain things that should not be affected if the idea is that we should preserve the unity of Nigeria.
Absolutely. And talking about the unity of Nigeria and the issue of an Igbo man being president is also another touchy subject. Because any time you bring it up, you find good reasons elsewhere why an Igbo man should wait. So, and how long should an Igbo man wait? And do you think that maybe this is part of the reason why some of the behavior we've seen from some of our Igbo brothers seem to actually radiate in a way that hasn't been palatable to other people?
Alex, I think you have touched something very sensitive. You cannot dismiss the psychological consequences of being relegated and suppressed and made to feel important. It can lead to different, kinds of reactions, and sometimes it might not be easy to explain it. But that's a great possibility that people feel so disenchanted that they now manifest it in so many ways. Someone who has been told that he does not amount to anything, if he gets an opportunity to re-emphasize, his, individuality and agency, he will not throw it away, which leads to this exhibitionism that we are talking about. But there is no way that we can justify that because there are better ways of conducting oneself in a civilized society. You see, but addressing the presidency, the question of, having an Igbo man preside over the affairs of Nigeria, it is something that Nigeria has to confront at some point. Because we have not actually done any better with the options we have had so far. The people who have taken turns at leading Ndị Igbo, and leading Nigeria, have they done a better job of the opportunities they have, the chances they have had? I don't think so. And then again, you look at the configuration of Nigeria, you look at, the gray areas of our national history, wouldn't you, as a man or someone with some level of conscience, actually think that there should be justice done? Not, you understand what I'm saying? Not that the time should come at some point when we move away from paying lip service to justice to actually seeing that justice is done. I think, and at no point in our recent history, have the Igbo had the opportunity of having someone amongst us who seems to tick the right boxes across the geopolitical configuration of this country. We have Peter B, who Nigerians across a broad spectrum have actually come to, accept. They've come to recognize his leadership qualities. Nigerians, in fact, Obi is loved more outside of Igbo land than within Igbo land. That's a fact. Why would Nigeria not give the Igbo man a chance? How does that make people who have, turned the presidency of this country into their private patrimony? How does it make them feel? How well do they sleep at night? Especially in the face of extreme and glaring incompetency and steady degeneration of the country and fragmentation along ethnic lines. If we were having very patriotic leaders who have not played to Nigeria's fault lines, but who have worked assiduously to unify the country, to reflect their love of Nigeria through, political patronage and, the sharing of political spoils and even distribution of amenities and infrastructure across the broad spectrum of the country, then nobody would actually worry about the marginalization of a certain group. But the tragedy is that we have not fared any better. And still, we don't want to give some people a chance. Alex, I think it's the biggest irony of contemporary Nigeria.
James Ngwu Eze, do you think that those passing through hard times should have great expectations? These are
expectations of Nigeria.
These are titles of two books by Charles Dickens. Hard times and
great expectations. That's a brilliant combo there. I'm more familiar with great expectations than hard times. Yes, I would rather have one than the other. I would rather have great expectations than hard times.
But that's the question I'm asking.
I know.
Why would those passing through hard times
have great expectations? I mean, within the Nigerian context, hope is the last refuge of a dispossessed man. For you to lose hope, it means everything is over. It means the game of life is over. So Nigerians are naturally optimistic, very extremely optimistic, and it is not for nothing that whether anybody believes it or not, Nigerians are a great people. We never give up. The Nigerian spirit is indestructible. We've survived years of extreme dictatorship under the military. We've survived the civil war, brutal as it was, and the aftermath of the civil war, which, the southeast Nigeria is still struggling, with. And we've survived, all manner of brigandage, in political offices across Nigeria. It's not peculiar to any particular region. We've had the ill luck of having terrible people preside over our affairs. In fact, the most recent disturbing, litmus test that Nigerians survived was the whimsical removal of oil subsidy 2 years ago, and which effect on our collective lives was very instantaneous. I remember traveling to Lagos within that period, and all the streets were empty. I went to Lekki Phase 1 mall, you know, and there was virtually, the mall was empty. There were few cars on Lagos roads. I couldn't believe my eyes, having lived in Lagos for years and having slept on Third Mainland Bridge on account of traffic. It's a couple of times as a Lagos professional working in a bank, sleeping on the bridge, and then getting to a new Lagos under the traumatic change, you know, fostered on Nigeria by its new leadership, and noticing that the streets were completely empty. It was something that really unsettled me for a while. But go back to Lagos, go to any other part of Nigeria and today, and you see that we have, again, weathered that storm. We have mastered the art of survival in almost the most horrendous and most inclement weather. That is Nigeria for you. So we have a nation of great people here that, for some strange reasons, has been robbed, you know, the light of a kind, purposeful, and vision, you know, driven leadership. That's what we lack. Otherwise, ordinarily, you know, the Nigerian has a way of, you know, motivating himself, even in the most dire of circumstances. And that spirit came to the fore against Morocco in the last WAFCON, you know, finals in Morocco, in Rabat. Was it Rabat or Marrakech?
I think it was in Rabat.
Yes. So that is who we are. The hope, we can't despair. Nigerians can't afford to lose hope. So there is still hope, regardless of how hard the times become.
I think, you know, on that very hopeful note, I have to thank you so much, James Ngwu Eze. So poet, journalist, and critic, and the CEO of Udala Tree Concept. As always, thank you for your perspectives on the Eastern Eye tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you.
That's the Eastern Eye tonight. Do join us tomorrow for another interesting package here. My name is Alex Obodo. Good night.